All right, guys. So Texas is absolutely blowing the doors off of Michigan. It's the third quarter. Well, it's about to be in the fourth quarter. I'm just going to make the video now because there's no way in hell Michigan's going to come back and win this football game. Davis Warren sucks. I think we all know this. I said this in week one. That's why I made that fraudulent video, because I watched that Michigan football game. I'm like, no, dude, this Michigan team is not good. They're not even going to make the playoffs. This team is not even going to make the playoffs. This is going to be an 8-4, 9-3 football team. And listen, I understand, you have some Michigan fans try to tell me that, listen, just give it time, be patient. This is not going to be fixed. Like there are certain things of your offense that's not going to be fixed. Now, maybe your offensive line can be better, right? Because because you lost a lot of pieces on your offensive line. So of course, building that continuity. It's not easy to play with replacement players, right? Especially because you had a very experienced offensive line last year, a lot of fifth-year guys. You got to build a lot of continuity on that offensive line. You got to build chemistry, and that does take some time. So I think that can get better. But you have no outside threat. You have no outside threat. Your best playmaker from a skill position standpoint is Loveland, and even Loveland is having not the greatest game in the world. Donovan Edwards, I like Donovan Edwards. I don't even know why in the hell was he on the cover of College Football 25? I never know this. You name me a backup running back or a backup player that was going to be on the cover of an NCAA game. I'll wait and see. Donovan Edwards is fine. It's just that, again, nowhere near Blake Corum's level. Besides him, I mean, like I said, you got Malusi, but even then, it's like, eh. So your offensive line is not as good as it used to be, but that can get better. Your receivers, no. Your quarterback play, absolutely not. Davis Warren sucks. Alex Orji sucks. You have zero passing attack. All you have is a running game. And I would say this, barely a running game, because the offensive line they're not really great. They're not particularly great in that area, not yet at least, especially if you're going against some of the big dogs. Now, here's the good thing. The Big Ten conference is ass, right? Everybody wants to make fun of the SEC. Everyone kept coming in my USC LSU video saying, man, what happened to the SEC? They're trash. Okay, let's talk about the teams that lost, right? Florida, who no one expected Florida to be a good team at all. They got their ass kicked by Miami. Okay. Texas A&M is probably the 8th best team in the SEC conference. And then LSU is probably the 6th best team in the SEC conference. What about Texas? What about Vanderbilt upsetting Virginia Tech? And Vanderbilt, trust me, Vanderbilt is ass. But let's be honest here. Everyone kept hyping up Virginia Tech to be this good team because they returned a majority of their production. Vanderbilt beat them. Why not talk about what Arkansas was able to do, especially what they're doing to Oklahoma State now? Why not talk about how good Oklahoma is, how good Missouri can be, how good Alabama can be, what Georgia did to Clemson, how Georgia might actually, repeat, how Georgia may go back to the national championship this season maybe. You won't talk about those teams, but you'll talk about the other SEC teams that no one really cares about, that no one really expects to have great seasons. But you want to talk about, but again, that's all you want to talk about. But you won't speak on the top half of the SEC. And Texas has absolutely shown you guys exactly why the SEC is the best conference. You look at the Big Ten conference this time. Penn State, again, they're barely beating Bowling Green. Wow, barely beating Bowling Green. Oregon barely beat Idaho, who's not even a powerhouse FCS school. You had Michigan State. Oh, God, Michigan State was terrible. Minnesota lost to North Carolina. Wisconsin barely beat Western Michigan. You won't talk about the rest of those Big Ten freaking trash schools. Really, the only team that showed that they had the most impressive win was USC beating LSU. Besides that, the Big Ten from top to bottom is an absolute mess. Matter of fact, Rutgers has put on a better showcase for the Big Ten conference than any of your power schools out there. That's a part of the Big Ten conference. So yeah, we want to talk about the SEC being trash, but let's have this conversation about the Big Ten. Let's have that conversation, because let's be honest here. The ACC is garbage. The Big Ten's garbage. The Big 12's garbage. But somehow, wait, we're overrated. We're trash and all like that stuff like that. No, shut up. The SEC is the best conference in college football. You know it. I know it. Don't stop having this SEC fatigue, because the SEC has been beating up everybody for the last 20 years. Like, let's just stop it, and let's just give the SEC their flowers. They are the best conference. Just because you have a few rotten apples that literally are rotten apples lose games doesn't mean that the SEC is trash, because you won't talk about the top half of the SEC where literally they can start their own conference. They can separate from the SEC, start their own conference, and beat everybody's ass. But you won't speak on that, would you? You won't speak on that. Michigan sucks. I tried to tell y'all this. I tried again. If you follow me on TikTok, I told you to pick Texas to cover the spread. The only thing I'm probably going to get wrong is maybe the under, because the under was like, I think 42.5 points. It might actually increase. We'll see. Again, I took, for the point being, I took the under because I said that that this was going to be a defensive game and Texas was going to win this game 24-10. But I'm probably wrong on that, so I apologize in advance to all the people out there that I told them to take the under. But besides that, Texas is kicking Michigan's ass. And Michigan, here's the crazy part. Even though I don't think Michigan's a good football team, they still can end up being 9-3 or 10-2 or maybe even better because of how trash this conference is. Like, this conference is truly trash. So Michigan is actually still in this thing, which is going to be crazy. But it is what it is, guys. I tried to tell all y'all guys that Michigan is just not a good football team. Some Michigan fans expected this. Others thought that, say, hey, man, just give it time. No, Michigan sucks. You have no passing game at all. Your offensive line regressed. Your defense has taken a step back. It's not bad. It's a very, very good defense, but it's clearly taken a step back. You lost a lot of NFL production, and I understand a lot of Michigan fans will give this excuse, but I can tell you this from a Bama fan perspective, of someone who's used to losing that amount of production on a yearly basis. Yeah, we found a way to recover. Georgia has found a way over the last 5 to 6 years since Kirby Smart has taken over to continue to replace that production. Texas, who actually lost a lot of NFL production, especially a lot of really good players to the transfer portal, they were easily able to replace that production. Why? Because they were able to dominate because those schools were able to dominate in recruiting. Hence, why the SEC continues to be the best conference in college football.